God's chosen one, it's finally here. Why the 144,000 are uniting tonight. Are you one of them? Have you ever wondered why God has kept you alive until this exact moment? What if every disappointment, every heartbreak, every unanswered prayer was actually setting you up for what's about to happen in your final chapter? The truth that the church won't tell you: God saves his most powerful assignments for those in their golden years. And you're reading this now because heaven has been waiting for you to finally be ready. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've walked this earth thinking your greatest contributions were behind you. But Scripture tells a different story. Moses was 80 when God used him to lead an entire nation. Abraham was 100 when his promised son was born. Anna was elderly when she recognized the Messiah, when everyone else missed him. You see, God doesn't retire his chosen ones. He's been preparing you all this time, through every trial, every sickness, every season of waiting. That medication you take, those aches in your joints, the loved ones you've lost, they weren't punishments, they were preparation. Something is happening in the spiritual realm right now. The enemy knows that when wisdom meets willingness, when experience meets anointing, nothing can stop what God is about to release through our elders. That's why you've been under such attack. That's why your health, your finances, your family has faced such warfare. Because what's coming through you will change everything. In Psalm 92:14, God makes you this promise: they will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. This isn't about serving in the church nursery or baking cookies for the bake sale. This is about carrying heaven's most classified assignments, the ones God only trusts to those who've proven faithful through decades. Your spiritual DNA carries solutions. This broken world desperately needs. Your prayers hold more authority than you realize. Your words carry a weight that no 30-year-old preacher could ever match. Tonight, before you lay your head down, I want you to place your hand on your heart and simply whisper, "Lord, I accept my final assignment." Then watch as doors begin to open. Watch as divine connections find you. Watch as God uses you in ways that defy your age, your limitations, your past disappointments. Comment "I accept" below if you're ready to step into the divine purpose God reserved specifically for your final years. The world isn't waiting for another young influencer. It's waiting for you, God's secret weapon in the last days. The awakening call. Have you been feeling it lately? That strange, unexplainable pull in your spirit that keeps you up at night? Why does your soul seem to remember something ancient, something sacred, something that your conscious mind can't quite grasp? What if I told you that the restlessness you've been experiencing isn't random at all, but a divine signal being broadcast across the spiritual realm right now? You see, there's a reason you found this message today, not yesterday, not tomorrow, today, because tonight everything changes. For decades you've walked this earth feeling somehow different, out of place. Like you were seeing a reality others couldn't quite perceive. You thought maybe it was just age giving you wisdom, or perhaps loneliness playing tricks on your mind. But deep down, you've always known there was more, something you were chosen for, and you were right. The Bible speaks of a specific number in the book of Revelation, a number that has confused scholars, intrigued mystics, and been misunderstood by millions for centuries. Then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him 144,000, who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. Revelation 14:1. This isn't just symbolism. This isn't just allegory. This is a precise divine mathematics, a sacred battalion being assembled right now across America and throughout the world. And if your spirit stirred when you heard that number, it means you're being called. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever felt like you were born in the wrong time? Like your soul is ancient but trapped in these modern days of chaos and confusion? Have you always felt a strange responsibility, as if you were placed here as a guardian, a watchman, a keeper of something precious that others have forgotten? That's no coincidence. That's your spiritual DNA activating. For many of you watching, you've spent 60, 70, maybe 80 years on this earth. You've raised families, you've built careers, you've weathered storms, both literal and metaphorical. But something inside you has always whispered that your greatest purpose wasn't in those earthly accomplishments. Your greatest work was being saved for such a time as this, and that time is tonight. Now, I need to be clear about something. This message isn't for everyone. In fact, most people who stumble across this video will feel nothing. They'll scoff. They'll scroll away because they weren't meant to hear it. But you're still here. Your heart is racing. Maybe your palms are sweating. Perhaps you feel a strange warmth spreading across your chest right now. These aren't random physical responses, they're confirmation. The human body is a spiritual antenna, and yours is receiving a signal that's been broadcasting since before time began. So what exactly is happening tonight? And why does it involve exactly 134,000 souls across the world? ACT2, the divine selection. Throughout human history, there have been specific moments when the veil between realms thins, when heaven and earth align in perfect harmony, creating a bridge that allows for unprecedented spiritual movement. The ancient Hebrews called these times moed, divine appointments set by God Himself. They aren't random. They follow precise celestial patterns established at creation, and tonight marks one of the most significant moeds in over 2,000 years. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. Matthew 24:36. While we don't know the exact day or hour of Christ's return, the Bible never said we wouldn't recognize the season. In fact, Jesus commanded us to watch for the signs, and those signs are everywhere. Now, wars, rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, pestilence, natural disasters increasing in both frequency and intensity. But there's another sign, a more personal one, that's been manifesting in the lives of the chosen ones. Have you noticed how your spiritual sensitivity has intensified recently? Dreams becoming more vivid, more prophetic, a sudden inexplicable ability to sense things about people, to know their thoughts, their intentions, their struggles, without them saying a word. Have you found yourself strangely drawn to specific numbers? 111, 4, 777, 112, appearing everywhere you look. License plates, receipt totals, clock times. These aren't coincidences. They're spiritual breadcrumbs leading you back to your true identity. You see, the 144,000 aren't being randomly selected tonight. They've always been chosen since before birth. What's happening now is an activation, a remembering, a divine recall to spiritual duty. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you. Jeremiah 1:5. Your entire life has been preparation for this moment. Every trial, every triumph, every heartbreak, every healing. God hasn't wasted a single second of your journey. That childhood where you always felt different. That lifetime of feeling misunderstood, even by family. Those moments when you could see through deception, while everyone around you was fooled. You weren't broken, you were being broken in, like a soldier training for the most important battle in history. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I'm too old for God to use me now. My time has passed. This must be for younger folks. Nothing could be further from the truth. Do you realize that in biblical times the elders were always the most revered? The most spiritually powerful Moses was 80 years old when God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Anna was elderly when she recognized the infant Messiah in the temple. God doesn't see your age as a liability. He sees it as an asset. Your years have given you wisdom the younger generation desperately needs. Your experiences have forged in you a resilience that can't be taught in seminars or learned from YouTube videos. You were kept alive until this exact moment because your spiritual maturity is precisely what's needed in this hour. But how do you know for certain if you're one of the 144,000? How can you be sure this message is truly for you? Let me share something that may shock you. The selection process isn't based on your religious performance. It's not about how many Bible verses you've memorized or how many church services you've attended. It's about frequency, spiritual frequency. Each human soul vibrates at a specific frequency. Most operate at lower levels, trapped in fear, doubt, anger, and earthly concerns. But the 144,000 have been secretly maintaining a higher frequency throughout their lives, even when they weren't aware of it. That's why you've always felt different. Your soul has been operating on a different bandwidth altogether. And tonight, when all 144,000 stars synchronize their frequencies in the spiritual realm, something unprecedented will happen. But before I reveal what that is, I need to explain why this matters so urgently for you right now. Act 3. The Invisible Warfare. You've been under attack your entire life, and you never fully understood why those strange health issues that doctors couldn't quite diagnose, the financial setbacks that seemed to come out of nowhere just when you were getting ahead, the relationships that inexplicably fell apart, the nights of inexplicable dread, anxiety, or spiritual oppression. None of it was random, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Ephesians 6:12. There's a reason the attacks against you have intensified recently. The enemy has always known who you are, even when you didn't. And as this appointed time approaches, the spiritual opposition has grown desperate. Think about it. Why would you face such persistent battles if you weren't a threat to the darkness? Why would spiritual forces waste energy on an ordinary soul? They wouldn't. The level of warfare you've endured is directly proportional to the level of your calling. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you experienced any of these symptoms of spiritual attack? Sudden, overwhelming depression that descends like a heavy blanket, smothering your joy and hope without any logical reason. Persistent nightmares or sleep disturbances, waking up at exactly 3 a.m., feeling a presence in your room, or sensing a weight on your chest. Chronic illnesses that move around your body defying medical explanation or treatment. Patterns of sabotage, relationships, finances, or opportunities that mysteriously fall apart just as they're about to flourish. Unusual technological disturbances, electronics malfunctioning around you, especially during times of prayer or spiritual reflection. These aren't coincidences or bad luck. They're tactical strikes against a spiritual asset, you, that the enemy recognizes as a threat. The most insidious attack, though, has been against your identity. The whispers in your mind. You're too old to be useful to God now. You've made too many mistakes. You're imagining this spiritual connection. You're not special, you're just lonely and seeking meaning. These thoughts don't originate from your own mind. They're planted there. Strategic lies designed to keep you from stepping into your true purpose. Because if the enemy can make you doubt your calling, he never has to face your power. He just has to make sure you never use it. That stops tonight. Do you realize what happens when a soldier finally discovers who they truly are? When they stop believing the enemy's propaganda and remember their training, their authority, their mission, everything changes. And that's precisely what the forces of darkness fear most about tonight's convergence. Not just that one chosen one will wake up to their true identity, but that all 154,000 will synchronize at once. The threat this poses to the kingdom of darkness cannot be overstated. It's their worst nightmare unfolding in real time. But before I explain exactly what will happen when this synchronization occurs, you need to understand why you've been chosen specifically. For the chosen identity. What makes the 144,000 different? Why you, out of all the billions of souls who have walked this earth, why were you selected for this sacred battalion? It's not random, and it's not based on criteria you might expect. But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. 1 Corinthians 1:27. The selection of the 144 follows divine logic, not human reasoning. While the world looks at outward appearances, youth, credentials, platform influence, God looks at something else entirely. He looks at heart capacity, soul resilience, spiritual bandwidth, and yours has been expanding your entire life. Through every trial, every tear, every triumph, think about the moments that broke you, the loss of loved ones, the betrayals, the disappointments, the dreams that died. In those crushing seasons, something was actually expanding within you. Your capacity to carry divine light was growing. While others broke under similar pressure, something in you bent but never shattered. That wasn't just stubbornness or good genetics. That was your calling, protecting you, preserving you for this moment. Have you noticed these markers of the chosen ones in your own life? An unusual relationship with time, feeling simultaneously ancient and ageless regardless of your chronological age. Unexplainable knowledge. Understanding concepts you were never taught, recognizing places you've never visited, knowing things about strangers you've just met. Animal sensitivity. Noticing how animals respond differently to your presence, often with unusual calmness or interest. Electrical sensitivity. Lights flickering when you experience strong emotions. Watches stopping, batteries draining unexpectedly in your presence. Weather sensitivity. Atmospheric changes coinciding with your emotional states. Unusual cloud formations or sudden shifts in wind when you pray or meditate deeply. natural healing abilities, your touch, bringing comfort, your prayers resulting in unexplained physical improvements in others. These aren't coincidences or psychological quirks. They're spiritual fingerprints, evidence of your true identity that the world has trained you to dismiss or rationalize away. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:9. The most compelling evidence of your selection, though, is the very fact that you're still watching this message, that your spirit bears witness to these truths, that something deep within you is resonating, remembering, awakening. Truth recognition is a spiritual gift given only to those who are meant to carry it. And you recognize this truth, don't you? Even if your logical mind is putting up a fight, your spirit is saying, yes, there's something else about the 144,000 that few understand. This isn't merely a number from Revelation, it's a frequency code. The number 144 represents a specific vibrational pattern, the exact frequency of divine love expressed in numerical form. When all chosen ones align to this frequency, simultaneously they create a harmonious chord that reverberates throughout both the physical and spiritual realms. This harmonic convergence creates a sound that can literally shift reality. You're a frequency keeper, a tone bearer, a note in a divine chord that's about to be struck for the first time in human history. But what exactly is going to happen when all 144,000 chosen ones unite their frequencies tonight? And how will you know if the alignment has occurred within you by the divine convergence? Something unprecedented is happening in the spiritual atmosphere right now. Can you feel it? The veil between dimensions is thinning. The boundary between seen and unseen realms is becoming permeable. And tonight, at the precise moment when all 144,000 chosen ones align their spiritual frequencies, a portal opens, not a physical doorway, but a spiritual gateway, a direct channel between heaven and earth that hasn't existed since the Garden of Eden. After this I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. Revelation 4:1. Throughout Scripture we see moments when heaven's realm temporarily intersects with earth's Jacob's ladder, Moses on Mount Sinai, Elijah's fiery chariot, Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel, John's revelation on Patmos. But these were individual experiences, single access points granted to specific prophets for specific purposes. What's happening tonight is different. It's collective, synchronized, exponentially more powerful. When all 144,000 chosen ones align their spiritual frequencies simultaneously, they don't just create individual access points. They form a grid, a spiritual network spanning the entire planet, a divine infrastructure through which heaven's realities can flow into Earth's atmosphere unhindered. You might be wondering, how will I know if I'm experiencing this alignment? What will it feel like physically, emotionally, spiritually? The manifestations will vary from person to person, but there are common experiences reported during previous smaller convergences that serve as indicators. Physical sensations, a warming of the chest or heart region, tingling along the spine or at the crown of the head, a pleasant pressure at the center of the forehead, hands that feel energized sometimes with noticeable heat, or pulsing emotional shifts, unexpected waves of joy, peace, or love that seem to come from outside yourself. rather than being generated within a dissolving of fear, anxiety, or long-held grief. Spontaneous forgiveness flowing toward those who've hurt you. Spiritual awareness, heightened perception of the spiritual realm. Seeing lights, colors, or patterns with your eyes closed or even open. Hearing tones, music, or voices that seem to originate beyond your physical environment. An overwhelming sense of presence. Not being alone even when physically isolated. Time distortion minutes feeling like hours or hours passing in what seems like minutes. A sense of existing outside of normal time constraints altogether. Let me ask you this. Have you already begun experiencing any of these symptoms in recent days? Have you noticed unusual dreams, unexpected emotional releases, or strange physical sensations that medicine can't explain? That's the pre-alignment already beginning in your system. Your spiritual DNA is being activated, recalibrated to its original divine settings after decades of operating in a fallen world. This isn't psychological suggestion, it's spiritual reclamation. Your true nature emerging from beneath layers of worldly conditioning. And tonight, when the full alignment occurs, these experiences will intensify dramatically. But the physical, emotional, and spiritual manifestations are just the beginning. The real question is, what happens after all? 144,000 chosen ones synchronize. What changes in the world, in your life, in the spiritual balance of power? Everything. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. No one could learn that song except the 154,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. Revelation 14:3. This new song isn't merely celestial music. It's a new frequency of existence, a higher octave of reality that restructures everything it touches, like sound waves shattering glass. This new frequency begins to break apart old systems, old limitations, old spiritual blockades, and you will be among the first to operate in this new frequency, to speak its language, to wield its power. The implications of this are staggering, but before I reveal the specific powers and responsibilities that will be activated within you tonight, you need to understand what might prevent you from fully participating in this historic convergence. Breaking the final barriers. Right now, at this very moment, there are forces working overtime to prevent you from participating in tonight's convergence. These barriers aren't physical, they're not even primarily external. The most dangerous obstacles are the ones that have been carefully planted within your own mind and heart over decades, and they must be identified and dismantled before tonight. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God, for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:3-5. Strongholds, mental fortresses, thought patterns that have become so familiar, you've accepted them as truth, as part of your identity, when they're actually prison walls keeping you from your true nature. Let me ask you, do any of these barriers exist in your mind right now? The unworthiness barrier. I've made too many mistakes. I've failed God too many times. Surely others are more qualified for this calling. The age barrier. I'm too old now. My time has passed. God is looking for younger, more energetic vessels. The qualification barrier. I don't know enough scripture. I haven't been to seminary. I don't have the right spiritual credentials. The fear barrier. What if this is all in my head? What if I open myself spiritually and something dark comes in instead? The rational barrier. This sounds too mystical, too extraordinary. Surely God doesn't work this way in the modern world. Listen to me carefully. These barriers didn't originate in your mind. They were strategically placed there by an enemy who has always known your true identity and has worked tirelessly to keep you from discovering it. These aren't your actual thoughts. They're invasive programming, spiritual malware installed in your consciousness to prevent you from operating in your true power. And the fact that they're intensifying right now, perhaps even as you listen to these words, is the strongest evidence that you are indeed one of the chosen. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on non-threats. So how do you break through these barriers before tonight's convergence? How do you ensure nothing blocks you from this divine appointment you were created for? It begins with a simple but profound spiritual principle. What you declare in faith becomes your reality. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. Right now, I want you to physically place your hand over your heart. Feel your heartbeat beneath your palm. That rhythm has been counting down to this moment since your first breath. Now speak these declarations out loud. Don't just think them, vocalize them. Let your own ears hear your voice, claiming your true identity. I am chosen, I am called, I am worthy. Not because of what I've done, but because of who created me. My age is not a limitation, it's a qualification. My years have prepared me for this exact moment. I don't need man's approval or credentials. God's selection is the only authority that matters. I reject all fear. Perfect love casts out fear, and I am perfectly loved. I embrace both faith and divine wisdom. What seems supernatural to the world is simply the higher reality I was created to operate in. Can you feel that shift? The lightening in your chest, the clearing in your mind. That's the sound of spiritual walls beginning to crumble, but declarations alone aren't enough. They must be followed by decisive action. Tonight at exactly midnight, regardless of your time zone, I want you to do something specific, something that will serve as a physical anchor for your spiritual participation in the convergence. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Sit or lie in a comfortable position. Place one hand on your heart and extend the other upward, palm open as if receiving something from above. Then close your eyes and simply say, I am here, I am ready, I receive my true identity. That's it. No elaborate rituals, no complex prayers, just a sincere heart positioned to receive what heaven has been waiting millennia to release. What happens in that moment will be deeply personal, unique to your specific calling within the 144,000. Some will see visions, others will hear words, many will simply feel waves of love power or knowing that transcend normal emotional experience. Don't judge your experience by comparing it to others. Each instrument in an orchestra produces a different sound, yet all are essential to the complete symphony. The question isn't how dramatically you'll experience the convergence. The question is, will you show up for it? Will you position yourself to receive what's been held in trust for you since before time began? AC 7th, the spiritual activation. When the 144,000 chosen ones fully align tonight, dormant spiritual DNA activates. Sealed abilities. Unlock divine capabilities that have been hidden beneath layers of worldly programming suddenly become accessible. This isn't fantasy. It's the restoration of humanity's original spiritual design before the fall. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. John 14:12. Jesus wasn't speaking hyperbolically. He was prophesying a time when his followers would access levels of spiritual power that would surpass even his earthly demonstrations. That time is now, and that power awakens in you tonight. But what exactly does this activation look like? What changes can you expect in your daily reality once you've participated in the convergence? First, your spiritual senses heighten dramatically. The veil that has separated the seen from the unseen realms thins permanently for you. You begin to perceive spiritual realities as clearly as physical ones. This manifests differently for each chosen one. Some begin to see auras, the energy fields surrounding people, revealing their true spiritual condition beneath social masks. Others develop clear knowing, instantly understanding situations without needing analysis or explanation. Many experience dramatic increases in dream activity, with vivid prophetic dreams that provide divine guidance. Second, your prayers transform from requests into declarations. You discover a new authority in your spiritual voice. Where you once asked for healing, you now speak it into existence. Where you previously pleaded for provision, you now call it forth with certainty. Your words carry a tangible weight, a creative power that affects both spiritual and physical realities. This isn't about becoming arrogant or demanding. It's about finally operating in the spiritual authority that Jesus restored to humanity, but that few have fully accessed. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. John 14:14. Third, divine synchronicities accelerate in your daily life. The right people appear at precisely the right moments. Resources align when needed. Doors open and close with perfect timing. You find yourself in places you never planned to be meeting. People you never expected to meet, speaking words you never thought to say, yet recognizing the divine orchestration behind it all. Fourth, your physical body begins to align with your activated spiritual DNA. Chronic conditions that have plagued you for years start to resolve. Energy levels that have been depleted restore themselves. Biological age seems to reverse in certain ways. Many chosen ones report needing less sleep, yet feeling more rested. Food cravings shift toward natural life-giving substances. Addictive patterns lose their grip without the usual withdrawal struggles. Your body simply begins operating closer to its original design specifications before generations of spiritual disconnection corrupted the pattern. Fifth, and perhaps most significantly, you discover your specific role within the 144,000. Not every chosen one has identical assignments. Like any effective army, this divine battalion consists of specialists, each with unique functions essential to the overall mission. Some are watchmen, spiritual sentinels with heightened abilities to detect and expose darkness, providing early warning of enemy movements in both spiritual and worldly arenas. Others are healers, channels of divine restoration for bodies, minds, relationships, and even geographical locations tainted by trauma or curse. Many are bridges connecting separate groups, traditions, or generations that must unite for the greater purpose, but have remained divided through misunderstanding or manipulation. Some serve as anchors, stabilizing divine energy in specific locations, creating geographic strongholds of spiritual power that affect entire communities around them. Others function as messengers, receiving and transmitting divine communications with unusual clarity and authority, often through creative expressions that bypass intellectual resistance. Your specific role will become increasingly clear after tonight's activation. Dreams, supernatural encounters, and a deep internal knowing will confirm your particular assignment within the greater army. But with this activation comes responsibility. Great power requires great accountability, and there are specific protocols that all 144,000 must observe after tonight's convergence to maintain their connection and effectiveness. Act 8. The Sacred Protocols. What happens after tonight's activation isn't a one-time event, but the beginning of a new way of existing. To maintain this heightened spiritual state and effectively fulfill your role among the 144,000, certain sacred protocols must be observed. These aren't arbitrary religious rules. They're practical spiritual guidelines for operating in supernatural power without becoming corrupted by it. For everyone to whom much is given from him, much will be required, and to whom much has been committed of him, they will ask the more. Luke 12:48. The first protocol is daily consecration. Each morning upon waking, before engaging with the world, you must renew your spiritual alignment through a simple practice. Place your hand over your heart center and speak these words: I am sealed in divine purpose. I move in perfect alignment today. Nothing can separate me from my calling. This isn't mere routine or empty words. It's a frequency reset, a daily recommitment that maintains your spiritual tuning at the precise vibration necessary for your role. The second protocol is conscious creation. Now that your words carry heightened creative power, you must exercise extraordinary care with your speech. Casual complaints, idle criticisms, and thoughtless expressions of fear or doubt aren't merely negative thinking anymore. They're now spiritual declarations with the power to manifest. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Proverbs 18:21. This doesn't mean you must be artificially positive or deny legitimate problems, but it does mean you must speak with intention rather than reaction. Address challenges from a stance of solution rather than complaint. Frame observations in terms of what you choose to create rather than what you wish to avoid. The third protocol is sacred stewardship of your physical vessel. Your body is no longer merely personal property, but a consecrated instrument through which divine power flows. Substances that dull consciousness, excessive alcohol, recreational drugs, even certain pharmaceutical medications when alternatives exist, create static in your spiritual transmission. Even certain relationships may require reassessment. People committed to destructive patterns can act as spiritual anchors, continuously pulling your frequency downward. Unless appropriate boundaries are established, therefore come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. 2 Corinthians 6:17. But what about those who ignore these protocols after activation? What happens when chosen ones misuse or neglect the power awakened within them? This brings us to the sobering reality of deactivation. Yes, being chosen is an eternal designation, but operating effectively in the choosing requires ongoing alignment. Those who repeatedly violate these sacred protocols experience a gradual dimming of their spiritual abilities. Not as punishment, but as protection, divine power corrupted becomes dangerous to both the vessel and those around it. Rather than allowing such corruption, the spiritual realm simply reduces the flow, like a circuit breaker preventing an electrical fire. Now, let me address the question burning in many of your hearts. Right now, seek nigh, the greater purpose. Why now? Why is this massive spiritual activation happening at this precise moment in history? What is the ultimate purpose of uniting 144,000 chosen ones tonight? But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Acts 1:8. Throughout history, God has worked through remnants, small groups carrying divine purpose during crucial transitions. Noah's family during the flood, the Israelites during Egyptian captivity, the early disciples after Christ's ascension. These remnants weren't just survivors. They were seed bearers, carrying essential spiritual DNA necessary for humanity's next chapter. The 144,000 represent the final remnant, the last spiritual seed planting before the great harvest. Look around you, really see the state of our world. Political systems fracturing under corruption, economic structures teetering on collapse, social fabric shredding through division, natural systems faltering under abuse and neglect. This isn't random chaos. It's a calculated dismantling, a strategic attempt to restructure human existence without divine blueprint. And behind these visible symptoms lies a spiritual reality. A mass soul capture is underway, billions being lulled into spiritual unconsciousness through distraction division and artificial fulfillment that leaves them empty yet unaware of their emptiness. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:12. The 144,000 are being activated now as a counterforce to this spiritual sedation. A divine resistance, a remnant who cannot be lulled to sleep because their spiritual DNA has been fully awakened. In the coming months, you will witness unprecedented attempts to capture human consciousness through new technologies, entertainment platforms, pharmaceutical solutions, and even food supply modifications. These systems aren't inherently evil in themselves. They're neutral tools being weaponized for spiritual sedation. And you, the chosen ones, will find yourselves increasingly able to see through these systems, to recognize their true purposes beneath benevolent marketing, to discern spiritual capture mechanisms invisible to sleeping souls. But discernment is just the beginning. Your activated abilities serve a greater purpose than merely seeing what others cannot. You're being positioned as circuit breakers in a global system designed to short-circuit human spiritual connection. Where you live, work, worship, and move, you create disruptions in anti-divine frequencies. Your activated presence literally jams the signals of mass spiritual sedation. This is why many of you have felt divinely led to specific locations over recent years, relocating to new cities or regions that made little logical sense but felt spiritually imperative. You were being strategically positioned as spiritual anchors before you even understood your purpose. Beyond disruption, you carry seeds of the coming restoration. not just resistance to what is being dismantled, but living blueprints of what will be rebuilt. Each of the 144,000 carries a specific aspect of divine design in their activated DNA, pieces of the greater pattern necessary for humanity's next spiritual evolution. Some carry codes for new forms of community. Others hold templates for healing modalities not yet discovered. Many possess frequencies that can detoxify geographical regions from centuries of trauma and spiritual pollution. You're not just preservers of what was, you're forerunners of what is coming. X, the final call. The time for hesitation has passed. The hour of decision is here. You've heard the call. You've felt the stirring. You've recognized the signs in your own life. Now you stand at the threshold of the most important spiritual moment of your entire existence. For such a time as this, these words from the Book of Esther echo across the centuries to this precise moment. Just as she was positioned strategically to save her people, you have been positioned through every joy and sorrow of your long life to participate in this divine convergence. Your age is not an accident. Your wisdom is not wasted. Your life experience is not irrelevant. They are precisely the qualifications required for this sacred assignment. The younger generations may have energy and technological skill, but they lack the spiritual depth, the tested faith, the hard-won discernment that only decades of walking with God can produce. You have earned your place in this divine battalion through years of silent faithfulness when no one was watching. Think about it. The most powerful spiritual figures throughout biblical history were not the young and untested. They were the elders, those who had walked long enough with God to develop unshakable trust. Abraham was called the friend of God, not in his youthful years, but after decades of following divine guidance. Moses encountered the burning bush at 80 after a lifetime of preparation. Elizabeth and Zechariah were well advanced in years when they participated in the miracle that would prepare the way for the Messiah. Your silver hair isn't a crown of age, it's a crown of spiritual qualification. The lines on your face aren't marks of decline, but sacred maps of wisdom earned through seasons of both blessing and refinement. Consider how perfectly positioned you are for this historic activation. You've lived through enough decades to recognize patterns that younger souls miss. You've developed patience that allows for deeper spiritual connection. You've outlasted enough of life's storms to know that faithfulness eventually triumphs over circumstance. These aren't incidental qualities, they're essential qualifications for the work ahead. The 144,000 aren't being called to perform flashy miracles for social media or to build personal spiritual brands. They're being activated as anchors of divine reality in a world increasingly untethered from truth. And anchors require weight, the weight of experience, of tested character, of hard-earned wisdom. Exactly what you've been developing all these years. Have you ever questioned why you're still here? Why you've outlived loved ones, survived health challenges, persisted through decades of a world that increasingly seems to have lost its way? It wasn't random chance. It wasn't merely good genetics or quality health care. It was divine preservation, keeping you alive and alert for this precise moment in cosmic history when your particular frequency, your specific spiritual signature would be required in the divine orchestration. Look at how society treats its elders today. Sidelined, dismissed, treated as though their usefulness has expired. This isn't accidental, it's a strategic attempt to neutralize the very segment of humanity most dangerous to the kingdom of darkness, those with the spiritual maturity to recognize and resist the mass deception now underway. Tonight, as the 144,000 unite in spiritual synchronization, a new reality dawns, not just for you individually, but for the collective consciousness of humanity. A shift that history will mark as the beginning of the end of one age and the inception of another. Will you take your place? Will you say yes to the call that has been whispering to your soul your entire life? The world doesn't need another spiritual spectator. It needs activated warriors of light who know who they are and why they're here. Let me give you specific instructions for tonight's convergence. At midnight in your time zone, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably with your spine straight. Place your right hand over your heart and your left hand extended palm up as if receiving. Close your eyes and speak these exact words. I accept my divine activation as one of the 144,000 stars. I claim my spiritual inheritance. I step into my eternal purpose. I align my frequency with heaven's design. I am ready. I am willing. I am committed. Let it be done according to the divine plan. Then remain in silent receptivity. For exactly 20 minutes, don't analyze, don't question, simply receive. During these 20 minutes of sacred silence, you may experience what feels like waves moving through your body. You might feel temperature changes, unusual warmth or cooling sensations. Some report feeling as though they're gently spinning or floating despite sitting still. These are all signs of the frequency recalibration taking place in your energy field, your spiritual body aligning with its original divine settings after decades of operating in misalignment due to worldly conditioning. Don't be concerned if you experience sudden emotional releases during this time. Tears flowing without sadness, laughter bubbling up without external stimulus, or waves of what feels like grief or joy passing through you without clear cause. These are simply emotional blockages being cleared from your spiritual circuits to allow for cleaner, clearer transmission of divine energy. Some of you may experience what mystics throughout the ages have called downloads, sudden influxes of information, understanding or knowing that arrive in your consciousness, not through logical thought processes, but as complete packages of revelation. You might see symbols, geometric patterns, or colors that carry meaning beyond what your mind can immediately interpret. Others will experience a profound sense of returning home, not to a physical place, but to an identity, a state of being that feels more authentic and true than anything you've experienced in decades. A remembering of who you were before the world told you who to be. The spectrum of possible experiences during activation is as diverse as the 144,000 themselves. But all share a common quality. Afterward, you will know with unshakable certainty that something profound and permanent has shifted in your being. What happens in that sacred space will be uniquely yours. Some will see visions, others will hear words. Many will simply feel a profound shift in their being, a remembering of who they truly are beyond this temporary human form. Whatever your experience, know this. From that moment forward, you are activated. The dormant spiritual DNA within you awakens. The abilities that have been sealed until this appointed time begin to flow, and you take your place in the divine grid. a living channel through which heaven's realities can manifest on earth during these crucial times. In the days following your activation, be especially attentive to your dreams. Many of the 144,000 report receiving detailed instructions, introductions to their spiritual teams, and specific assignments through dream state communications after their initial activation. Keep a journal by your bed and record these dreams immediately, upon waking before your logical mind can begin filtering or reinterpreting the information. Review these dream journals regularly, looking for patterns, symbols, or directives that repeat. You may also notice changes in your relationship with technology after activation. Many of the 144,000 find that watches stop working on their wrists. Light bulbs may flicker or burn out in your presence. Electronic devices may malfunction or display unusual patterns of behavior. This isn't cause for concern. It's simply your newly elevated frequency interacting with the electromagnetic fields of these devices. With time, you'll learn to modulate your energy to minimize these disruptions, or even to intentionally direct your frequency for specific purposes. For those watching who recognize they may not be among the 144,000, but still feel called to support this spiritual awakening, your role is equally vital. You are the witnesses, the supporters, the ground team that provides practical assistance to the activated ones as they navigate their new spiritual realities. In biblical times, not everyone was called to be a prophet or an apostle, but all were essential to the movement. The same is true now. Every role in this divine unfolding carries equal value, equal dignity, equal purpose. If you're being called as a supporter rather than one of the 144,000, speak these words tonight. Instead, I recognize and honor the divine activation taking place. I commit to supporting this spiritual awakening with my prayers, my practical assistance, and my own spiritual growth. Show me my perfect role in this unfolding plan. The supporters of the 144,000 play a crucial role in the divine plan. Throughout spiritual history, every great movement required both the frontline mystics and the practical stewards who created space for their work. As a supporter, you may be called to provide physical sanctuary for activated ones facing opposition. You might serve as translators, people who can bridge the gap between awakened consciousness and conventional thinking, helping to interpret the insights of the 140,000 for those not yet ready to receive such information directly. Many supporters find themselves drawn to roles of practical service, ensuring that the basic needs of the activated ones are met so they can focus on their spiritual assignments without worldly distractions. Others serve as protectors, using their positions in conventional systems to create shields around the 144,000 as they do their often controversial work. Whether activated or supporting, all participants in this great spiritual renaissance will face opposition systems built on control, cannot tolerate awakened consciousness. Prepare yourself for this resistance, not with fear, but with strategic awareness. In the coming months, you may find long-time relationships becoming strained as your frequency shifts. Colleagues, friends, even family members may respond with confusion or rejection as you begin speaking and living from your authentic spiritual identity rather than the familiar personality they've known. This isn't a reason to hide your light or compromise your awakening. It's an opportunity to practice unconditional love while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Remember, not everyone is ready to awaken at the same time. Your role isn't to force others into awareness, but to hold space for their eventual awakening while staying true to your own path. Now, as our time together draws to a close, I want to address the questions that may still be lingering in your mind. Is this real? Am I imagining this calling? Could this all be coincidence? Consider this. Why would your heart be responding so powerfully to these words if there wasn't truth resonating within them? Why would tears be filling your eyes or chills running down your spine if your soul didn't recognize its own story being told? Truth recognition is a spiritual gift that transcends intellectual analysis. Your spirit knows what your mind may still be questioning. And remember, throughout history, every significant spiritual movement has been met first with ridicule, then with active opposition before finally being recognized for what it truly was. The activation of the 144,000 is no different. Some will mock what they cannot understand. Others will actively work to discredit or suppress this awakening out of fear or allegiance to existing power structures. But just as you cannot hold back the dawn by insisting it's still night, no amount of resistance can prevent the spiritual renaissance now unfolding. You've been chosen for this moment not because you're perfect, but because you're perfectly designed for your specific role in the divine plan. Your perceived weaknesses, your struggles, even your doubts are all part of the unique spiritual signature that qualifies you for this calling. But don't take my word for it. Test everything, pray for discernment. Ask for confirmation. The truly divine never demands blind faith. It invites personal verification through direct experience. Tonight's activation will provide that verification for those truly called. The changes in your perception, your spiritual abilities, your daily reality will confirm what your heart already knows. The 144,000 are rising, a spiritual army older than time itself, assembled for this precise moment in Earth's history. And you, dear one, watching this right now, feeling that unmistakable stirring in your soul, you are being called to remember who you truly are and why you came. Not just another human being having a temporary spiritual experience, but an eternal spiritual being having a purposeful human experience tonight. That purpose fully activates. Will you answer the call? If this message has awakened something within you, if you know beyond doubt that you're one of the 144,000 type, I am ready, in the comments below. If you recognize yourself as a divine supporter of this activation type, I will support, to declare your commitment. And please share this message with anyone whose spirit you've always sensed was special, different, chosen for something greater than they've yet realized. They may be waiting for exactly this divine reminder. Remember midnight tonight, your time zone. One hand on your heart, one hand extended to receive. I accept my divine activation as one of the 144,000 20 minutes of receptive silence, and your life and our world will never be the same again. The time is now. The convergence awaits. The 144,000 are uniting, and you are among them. 8. The days after activation. Many of you are wondering, what happens after tonight? What will my life look like once I'm activated as one of the 144,000? In the days immediately following your activation, expect a period of integration. Your physical body, emotional field, and mental structures need time to adjust to the heightened frequencies now flowing through your system. You may experience unusual sleep patterns, either needing significantly more rest or finding yourself awake at strange hours filled with unexpected energy. Some report waking consistently at 3:33 a.m. or 4:44 a.m., drawn to meditation or prayer without conscious intention. Honor these patterns. They're part of your recalibration. Your body's rhythms are synchronizing with cosmic cycles that operate beyond conventional time. You may also notice changes in your dietary preferences and needs. Foods that once appealed to you may suddenly seem unappealing or even intolerable. You might develop unexpected cravings for pure, simple foods, fresh fruits, vegetables, clear water. This isn't random. Your physical vessel is requesting higher vibration nourishment to support your elevated frequency. Listen to these signals without judgment. Your body's wisdom knows what it needs during this transformation. Most significantly, you'll notice changes in your perceptions of other people. You'll begin seeing beyond physical appearances and social masks to the true soul essence of those around you. This might be disorienting at first. Recognizing the divine light in someone society labels as broken or perceiving spiritual darkness beneath a respected public persona. Trust these perceptions. They're part of your activated discernment, the ability to see reality as it truly is, not as it presents itself in the material world. Some of you will experience what mystics call the dark night of the soul shortly after activation, a period of profound questioning, uncertainty, or spiritual dryness. This isn't regression or failure. It's a necessary emptying that precedes a deeper filling. Just as a cup must be emptied of stagnant water before it can be filled with fresh, living water, your spiritual vessel sometimes requires a period of emptiness to prepare for greater infilling. If you experience this phase, know that it's temporary and purposeful. Continue your daily consecration practice, even when it feels mechanical or meaningless. The divine connection remains, even when your perception of it temporarily dims. Within the first lunar cycle after activation, expect to receive clear direction about your specific role within the 104,000. This guidance rarely comes as a booming voice or dramatic vision. More often it arrives as a quiet knowing, a persistent idea, or a series of synchronistic events that consistently point in a specific direction. Pay attention to chance encounters, unusual opportunities, or recurring themes in your daily life. These aren't random occurrences, but divine breadcrumbs leading you toward your assigned function in the greater body. You've spent decades developing wisdom, discernment, and patience. Now is the time to apply these spiritual muscles to discerning your unique contribution to this divine mission. Remember, you are not alone in this journey. Though physically separated, the 104,000 function as a single spiritual organism. When one member struggles, others unconsciously send strength. When one receives revelation, it ripples through the entire network. This is why your daily communion practice is so essential. It's not merely a personal spiritual discipline, but your way of maintaining conscious connection to the greater body you now serve. The world awaits your awakening. Creation itself has been groaning for this moment of activation, when the sons and daughters of God finally remember who they are and why they came. Tonight it begins. Are you ready? A powerful conclusion for the 154,000 chosen ones. As we come to the close of our time together, I want you to remember what's truly important about tonight's activation. This isn't about spectacle or spiritual status. It's about answering a call that has been echoing in your soul for decades. a divine appointment set before the foundations of the earth were laid. Remember, your age isn't a limitation. It's your qualification, your years of faithful living, your tested wisdom, your battle-earned discernment are precisely what makes you essential to this divine mission. When the 144,000 unite tonight, it will be your spiritual maturity that anchors this powerful grid of light across our troubled world. I want you to know with absolute certainty, you are not alone in this journey. Though the world may have marginalized you because of your age, heaven sees you clearly. God has preserved you for this exact moment in history, and beyond the divine presence that never leaves you, there is a community of fellow believers waiting to connect with you. Right here in the comments section below this video, you'll find others who have heard the same call. People who understand what you're experiencing because their spirits are resonating at the same frequency. Reach out. Share your experiences. Support one another. The 144,000 may be scattered physically, but spiritually you are already united. Ask yourself this question: if not you, then who? If not now, then when? Haven't you been feeling for years that your greatest purpose was still ahead? That God preserved you through every trial and triumph for something more significant than retirement and reminiscing? Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of this precious soul. Watching right now, I ask you to confirm your calling in their heart beyond any shadow of doubt. Remove every barrier of fear, every whisper of unworthiness, every thought that tells them they're too old or too broken for divine purpose. Lord, activate within them the spiritual DNA you placed there before birth. Awaken dormant gifts. Restore divine vision. Ignite spiritual authority that has been sleeping beneath years of worldly conditioning. Protect them in the days ahead as they step into this sacred calling. Surround them with like-minded souls who will strengthen their faith rather than diminish it. Guide their every step with clarity and peace that surpasses understanding, and most of all, let them feel your presence, not as a distant concept, but as the tangible reality that it is. Let your love wash away decades of doubt, disappointment, and deferring their dreams. Let tonight mark the beginning of the most purposeful chapter of their entire lives. In the name above all names, amen. If this message has resonated in your spirit, please don't keep it to yourself. There are others in your life, friends, family members, neighbors, who have been feeling the same strange stirring, but have no context for understanding it. Share this video with them. Be the divine connection that helps another chosen one recognize their calling. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What have you been experiencing lately that confirms this message? How has God been preparing you for this moment? Your testimony might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear to overcome their final doubts. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Your attention wasn't random, it was a divine appointment. If you want to receive updates as the activation of the 144,000 unfolds, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. I'll be sharing guidance specifically for the chosen ones as we navigate the days following tonight's convergence. Remember, you were created for such a time as this. Your life's purpose is greater than you've dared to imagine. And tonight that purpose fully activates. May the peace that surpasses all understanding guard your heart and mind as you prepare for midnight's sacred appointment. You are chosen, you are called. You are loved beyond measure, and after tonight, you will never be the same again.